The Grappling Hour is brought to you by Ludagear, athletic support items created by grapplers for grapplers. Fire Grub Meal Prep. Meal prep done right. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your good friend Raph Esparza coming to you live right now via all of our platforms. I just joined on Instagram. You can see this on YouTube. You can see it on our Facebook. You can see it pretty much anywhere. Very, very special episode coming in today. We haven't checked in with you guys. I definitely wanted to go ahead and say what's up. I hope you guys are doing fantastic. I think the sound is coming in pretty well over on the Instagram. If you're here, say hello. Feel free to go and chime in. You guys can go ahead and get a lot of information, I think, in the next little time as to what we're going to be doing in the next couple weeks, as well as taking some of your questions. What up, Sleeved Poppy? It's a weird one to say hello to, actually, if I'm being honest, who is joining us on our Instagram on our live version. So why today? I thought it would be interesting. I don't have a guest for you guys. Normally I do. Normally I have somebody that we line up and we say, hello, how are you doing? And stuff like that. We are working on right now getting Lachlan Giles to come on the show very soon because he just won over at the ADCC trials over in Asia, I think. And he's always been super good. What's up, No Fear Noah and Sleeve Poppy? Why I weird to say? Well, first of all, why I weird to say is a weird sentence, so we should address that. Sleeved Poppy. I just have this weird thing about like adults just calling each other papi, which is just weird. I mean, even when Hispanics do it, I'm kind of like, you don't have to do that. What's up? Good to see you, Yuki. Anyway, No Fear Noah, good to see you as well. So, fun story. I wanted to share this with you guys because today actually marks 10 years to the exact moment I walked into my very first gym in jiu-jitsu. So it is very interesting. I'll be celebrating it tonight by going to get my brains beaten in over at our good friends over at Valley Martial Arts Center. But I'm very happy about it, and I think it's very important to describe those things and to kind of celebrate them, because it is interesting when you do start in jiu-jitsu. You kind of look at those statistics and you say, oh, these people are going to fall by the wayside and all those sorts of things. So for me, I just always laugh really hard when I look back and I see we make fun of those people who don't come back, or they leave and come back sort of thing. I was one of those guys. But I had my own reasons, and I'll get to that. I want to join in and say hello to our good friend. It's John T. Hope all is going well, John. Aoki Sumitsu. Good to see. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and check in over on our Facebook. You guys can go ahead and comment there if you have any notes, comments, concerns, hints, allegations, all that good stuffs. I will be taking all of your guys' notes. Sleeve Poppy, down 180 in 14 months of jiu-jitsu. I have a lot to celebrate with you. Yeah, you do. Holy shit. This show should be about you, not about me. Jesus Christ. I started jiu-jitsu 10 years ago. That's not that momentous. I mean, I just wanted to bring a podcast on to talk to you guys about it and hopefully hear some of your guys' journeys as I did this. What the fuck? 104, down to 180 in 14 months. That's very impressive. So here's how it kind of started for me. I can definitely tell you guys a little bit about the story about how my own jiu-jitsu story, I kind of remember vaguely now how it began and how it may apply to what you guys are doing. What's up, Blanca? So let's start here. It was 10 years ago. I knew I wanted to do jiu-jitsu for years. I was doing jiu-jitsu, just kind of grappling with some of my friends. I kind of had a reputation of being very durable. There was a time, believe it or not, where when I was playing soccer and I was running so much, I was not able to go under 140 pounds until I was about 18 or 19. So for years, I was always like, man, I wish I could get bigger. Oh man, I wish I was a little bit sturdier. And I think back to those days, especially when we talk to people who are fighting in the 140 divisions, and they're always like, yeah, 140 is tough weight. I wish I could be bigger. And I was like, you don't want to be. Nah, that once that genie opens that well, there's no going back. So I would always go and I would always train with my friends. And, eventually I saw the science behind, of course, the Ultimate Fighter and stuff like that. And I just thought, oh, that'd be cool to learn. I could see the science of it. Because for years when I would watch Ultimate Fighting, I was like, hey, that's not me, dude. I don't know who the fuck that is. And if you talk to a lot of the people who I knew growing up with, they're like, how is Raph at all involved in anything martial arts? So it just happened every time I moved from one place where I went to school out in Illinois, and I was like, I'm going to start training now. I had resolved. I was like, you know what? I'm going to start training. I really like this UFC. I like how they clean the sport up. I like how I can see the science behind it. And they didn't have anything close to me. But the minute I moved, Normal, Illinois welcomed a few more gyms, which was kind of a kick in the dick. And then I think somewhere around 2006, I started grad school over in Western Kentucky. Now, again, two very prominent areas, Western Kentucky and Bowling Green, Illinois, which is both places I went to school at. And Western Kentucky didn't have a place either. So ultimately, when I finally came back to LA, after I was done with my time out there, I resolved and I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to look around. I'm going to find a gym and I'm going to go because I think jiu-jitsu is something that would be really, really good for me. And so I went to a local place out here in LA and I signed up like immediately. I took the class and I wasn't even done. And I just ended up saying, oh, well, I'm going to sign up. No big deal. I literally paid my fees and I was already there. And I guess it's kind of funny now because I sent an email asking for a private instruction to one of the guys who was running the place or who was an instructor there. And they never got back to me. I mean, I was trying to throw money away and say, hey, I know you guys talk about privates and I know that's a really helpful thing. So I really want to try and get better sooner. And I understand how far back I am compared to everybody else. So still waiting for a response to that email. That's going to be celebrating its 10th anniversary, I think on Saturday. So fingers crossed. Hopefully they get back to me. But I could say with great affinity now, I'm actually good friends with the person who didn't get back to me. So anyway, but I remember going and I loved it. And I had started actually at a 10th Planet. And I loved it. I loved that system. I loved doing no-gi. I thought it was really fun. I did notice, though, I was not in shape. So I did notice that when they'd be like, hey, let's do some cartwheels, I'd be like, who does cartwheels? That's fucking lame. And this is before you even know what a cartwheel pass or anything like that is. So I just remember people doing cartwheels and being like, this seems stupid. But I was working my way through most of the 10th Planet warm-ups, which can be challenging, especially to people who are new. And I definitely remembered, just enjoying it. And I still had one of the same traits I had when I was first starting, which was I was fairly durable. So immediately people were like, hey, were you wrestling as a kid? And I was like, no. They're like, you have a good base. And I was like, sure. Like, I didn't know any better. I didn't know any different. But after I signed up and I tried to get the private instruction, I would go off and on. I was just starting to work over at NBC, and I worked as a page, which is like the lowest ring. You're like above interns, but not quite there. And I kept saying, like, I really want to do a good job. I really want to make sure I'm really, really good at getting my job under there. So I would do this thing where I would work, then go train for a little bit, and then after I would train, I'd just be dead, and I'd have to drive back to Hacienda Heights. Now, those of you who don't understand LA traffic, this won't make any sense to you, but this is basically my schedule in the morning. An hour and a half of traffic to get up to Burbank from Hacienda Heights. Then, for funsies, I would work pretty much a 9-hour day, then go train, wait for that to start, drive home for about another hour and a half, and rinse and repeat. And it really made, when you know jujitsu and you're actually putting that into your schedule, it works a little bit better. But when you have no idea this is going to become part of your life and you don't know what the future holds, this is pre-podcast and all that sort of stuff, you literally go, what the fuck am I doing? So I held it up for as long as I could. And I think one of the things that made it slightly difficult was that time my own mother was going through some health issues. And so it became where I would spend more time with my family. And as I would spend more time with my family, I was like, man, I really want to go back. But I knew that the days I wasn't going, I was one of those guys who signs up at a gym and just pays the fees. And I was so pissed at that. Like, I was like, oh, I know they're going to, oh, that's the fucking idiot guy that just gives money. And it was upsetting. But I just kept thinking, I was like, I'll go in, I'll train for as much as I can. I enjoyed it. And then, unfortunately, my mom passed around in August. And so at this point, I kind of got to this place where I really wanted to continue going and I really wanted to be on my journey in doing this, but it just didn't feel right. So I'd spend time with my dad. And when I would spend time with my dad, I would just be like, hey, old man, how's it going? Because I think it's what you're supposed to do. I think it's what when crisis happens to your family, you want to get closer to them. And I've always had a good relationship with my dad, but it would always just be me showing up after that aforementioned crazy low ring of the totem pole place and coming home and then being like, Dad, tell me a story, I guess. And it would just be exhausting. So I had eventually kind of rationaled that I guess I would keep my subscription at this 10th Planet, but I wouldn't go all the time. And that bugged me. And I told this story once on our podcast, and somebody sent me a note and was just like, wow, it was so you were so good to do that kind of a thing. Like, that was so honorable of you to do. And I was like, I don't think it's honorable. I think it was just what you do. When you care about your family and you care about the well-being of your dad and your sisters and in other cases, your brothers and your close friends. But in this, it was like, no, that's what you're supposed to do. And then I just remembered being angry that I couldn't go train and that in theory I should be getting better. So, the hard part about being the low ring on the totem pole at NBC is that you're perpetually just trying to prove that you're good and that you are doing your work and that you're doing it right. And eventually I just said, okay, I think after 2 years of paying for fees and being like, well, spottily going off and on, I said, I'm going to cancel my gym membership. And it was dumb because I was giving them free money, but I was like, it was my way of keeping myself accountable. So I couldn't quite justify saying, no, I don't want to do this anymore. And eventually I remembered giving them a call, and it felt like you were quitting, or at least I felt like I was quitting when that happened. So I remember very distinctly giving a call over and saying, hey, do you mind cutting off my card? And there was no problems. They're like, yeah, no, totally. We totally understand. But it felt like, oh, I'm not real. I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So I remembered about 2011, I would go hang out with friends and I would try out different gyms, kind of breezily in my area. Now I had kind of settled down. I'd proven I was a good worker over at NBC, and I was feeling it and I enjoyed it. And then I remembered very, very distinctly seeing a scale look and say that I was going to be 200 pounds. Now I'm about 5'9", 5'10" with good shoes. And I just thought to myself, yeah, I can't beat 2 bills. That's not good business. So I immediately started really looking very hard at places where I thought, oh, maybe this could be a good place to train, or maybe this is the place I'm going to go. And as that was happening, I found my current gym. I found Valley Martial Arts Center. And I remember going with my buddy Timmy, and Timmy was a Taekwondo black belt, and he was one of the few people who I knew who really did martial arts. And I was like, hey dude, come do this with me. It'll be fun. Anytime we grappled, I can't beat him up because he's like 6'3" and just super strong. And I remember being like, yeah, let's do this. So anyway, as we would do all that sort of stuff and And I remember going to VMAC and signing up again very quickly. And they were like, what do you think? And I was like, well, I like the place, I like the people. And they're like, well, why do you want to sign up so quickly? And I said, there was two things that happened. One, I tried every gym out in the surrounding area. And two, I didn't know that place existed for 7 months while I was looking actively for a place to both lose weight and feel better. And the minute that did happen, I just thought, these people seem nice to me. They seemed like home. And so that was, I believe, January 2012. So it's been 7 years with them, which has been great. And it's been now, 10 years of doing this. And I wouldn't normally bug you guys with such a story, but I hear so many different people when they start. It's very awkward. It's very unusual to do this thing. And everybody has their own kind of cool story that they tell about how they got into grappling or how they got into martial arts. And it's part of the reason why whenever I do an interview, I do spend so much time trying to get in the psychology of what makes you do this or what makes you do this, because I'm genuinely interested. So I wanted to do this broadcast today to talk about that, but to also put out an idea and see if you guys might be interested in this. But for Grappling Hour, one of my favorite things to do is to continually talk to people. And I know we're going to have a lot of visitors coming in for this year's Worlds. So I just thought, because it's kind of cool to share my story, I'd love to help tell your stories. And I would love to talk more about how you fell in love with jiu-jitsu and your beginnings if you so want to do it. And yeah, I mean, I can obviously call up a lot of our friends who are on our Rolodexes, but everybody kind of has some sort of weird journey that they've experienced, and a lot of times they've done it on their own until they find their tribe. And I think it's important to pay that forward, because I think it was hard to come back because I didn't know anybody in jiu-jitsu. And it was strange. Like, you very much feel like an outsider when you first show up. And then by the time people like you, you know that you've made it into the group when they say the following, which is, get lost. Because at that point, they're like, Jesus Christ, you're part of the group. I hate you. Leave. That's when you know you truly made it. So I don't know. If you guys would be receptive or interested or want to participate in that sort of a thing, I'd love to talk with you guys about your stories. And part of the reason why I thought it would be good to share on a day like this is because for me, it's coming up on 10 years of doing jiu-jitsu, but also 10 years of my mom passing, and I get that nice little window where she was always celebrating like Mother's Day and her birthday on like the same days. And I thought one thing that really helped me remember to go do those things and to branch outside of a comfort zone was very simple. It was just, you realize very quickly that life is very short and that you should go do those things. So for me, I enjoy doing this, and I'm so glad that I meet these people like North South Jiu-Jitsu that said, I threatened to start BJJ for 12 years. 12 years is a long time. And he's actually pretty good, so he made up for lost time pretty quickly. I just know that hearing people's journeys in jiu-jitsu has always been fun for me, and I wanted to expand that project, maybe make it part video, part audio, do it for our podcast that we have for Grappling Hour. But I realized, though, that when you do get close to celebrating those markers and you do have those reminders of how you were fortunate to have those things, that you should celebrate those things, especially when you have such a great impact from what it does to you. So for me, I'd like to explore those ideas and hear more about your journeys. If you want to reach out to me, it's very simple. You can find me at Grappling Hour on all the major social media. So that's, the Instagram, the YouTube, the Facebook, all of the things that we have going on. You can also shoot me an email over at grapplinghour@gmail.com. If you are coming to Worlds, please hit me up, because I would love to spend a little bit of time chatting with you if I have the opportunity. And if not, a Skype call is super easy to make happen. But I thought it would be a cool way to share it. I thank you guys for taking a moment to just hear a quick story. I hope it's similar, or that you have cool things that prompted you to do it. And I think it's important to remember those things and mark them, because I sent out a note to one of my friends with the email where I was trying to get a private instruction, and it never happened. And they just laughed. And they were like, holy shit, man, that's so funny. And I was like, yeah, I probably would have been better if I had started then too. But I think the nice part was when I finally ended up starting jiu-jitsu for real, it found its way in a different part of my life when I really probably needed it more. So, I mean, I guess I could be a brown belt by now. I mean, I know my technique, so I know I'd probably be like, realistically speaking, like more of a high purple as opposed to a regular purple, but that's not important. The important thing is starting the journey. And so I'm glad I was able to talk about mine today. I hope you guys are keeping track with us here at Grappling Hour. Like I mentioned, Worlds is coming up. We just watched Submission Underground. We're going to put some feels out to some of the folks who did great work on that, and we will be speaking more and more with you guys as more stuff becomes available throughout the week. I also want to say thank you to everybody at Lights Out Extreme Fighting for inviting me to come on over and watch those fights we talked about on this week's podcast over on Verbal Tap. And that's going to do it. Hopefully I get to hear from you guys very soon. I hope you guys are having a great day. It's been a great day for grappling. We'll see you on the mats.